Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel Trading Secrets. This channel is for entertainment purposes only. For those of you who do not know, my name is Ali. I have over 20 years experience teaching accounting, economics, business and law. Through this channel I'll be providing some stock analysis and a quick update on the $1 Million Challenge. So if anybody's not aware of this is a journey with $1,000 to a return of $1 million over a period of 3 years using a strategy called compound return investing. So the objective is try to get 201 trades, each with an average return of 3.5%. It's not 201 consecutive trades, we do take into account losses. So for further details about how to join us for less than $9 a month, information is available in the description below. In today's video I'm going to be looking at some important updates with Richard Hoffman's case against Fidelity, the DTCC, FINRA, and now we have another angle with the SEC, so stay tuned for that. There's also important additions with regards to the developments in terms of the Freedom of Information Act. So before we get started, we also will be looking at a review of the weekly watch list. So in terms of the markets, we can see here, quick headline, Tesla is to open a mega factory in Shanghai. So great news there for Tesla. Asian markets have started the week mostly higher. So we did have a bad week towards the end of last week in terms of the stock market. So hopefully from today, a good day overall. Look at the latest development with regard to Richard Hoffman's case. I'm going to share with you a quick review of our weekly watch list from the previous week. Before we get started, a quick update on myself. I'm still currently on vacation, so I am overall a little bit behind the loop. I am trying to follow as best I can. In terms of what's been happening with the Freedom of Information Act and also significant personalities coming onto our side, I think momentum is building, so this is something that we do need to keep up. Let's start with the weekly watch list. So one of the stocks that we called out in terms of the best stock was GFAI. So that was up approximately 158% on the week, so congratulations to everybody who got in on that. SOUN was also a stock that we have been following for a while. That's up 43% on the week, may have some more momentum in that. YMAB, that was up 33%, so good news on that. PRTK, that was up 2.3% on the week. OABI, that was up 2.2% on the week. PPSI, that was up 15.2% on the week. FYBR, that was at 1.3% on the week, but there was a significant sell-off Tuesday. PATI, that was up 8.5% on the week. ELF, that was up 0.6% on the week. BRDS, that was level on the week. VTNR, that was down 15% on the week. No, so not all calls are successful, but in order to get the next weekly watch list, you can certainly join us. Details are in the description below. First thing I'd like to do is give a shout out to my friend Robert Mann, or Bob Mann. He's somebody who's just submitted another Freedom of Information request to the SEC. He's looking for correspondence between FINRA and the SEC. So I'm going to share with you some of the things that he added onto his Freedom of Information request. So let me just try and get that up. So if we have a look at the first thing that Bob has suggested, he's also suggested that we look for an expedited service is requested. So a comment that Bob made is, I will disseminate the information given to me so that it can be used with other shareholders, lawsuits, and also on my own. There are over 64,000 shareholders of MMTL, but potentially there could be more if we also look at the synthetic shareholders. Absolute minimum 64,000, but highly likely to be many more. The other thing for number 4 he suggested is the public's understanding of the subject must be enhanced to a significantly extent by the disclosure. So Bob is, in terms of the fee waiver, he said yes. And he said it's definitely in the public interest, so 100% agree with that. We're looking at collusion, we're looking at conspiracy to be revealed that the SEC and FINRA can be replaced and the rules of the OTC trading can be radically improved. So Bob, along with myself and everybody else in the community, all we want is free and fair markets, and obviously the same rules apply to us, to all other market makers and hedge funds as well. So if you go to the SEC website, you go under /FOIA/contact, so you'll get the link here, which is the contact the Office of Freedom of Information Act Services. So remember, the SEC does come under the Freedom of Information Act. With regard to FINRA, in my opinion, I think that's a grey area. Potentially it could come in, but obviously lots of statements saying FINRA is immune because it's not a public organisation. However, if FINRA do have correspondence with the SEC, then through the SEC, the Freedom of Information Act could potentially reveal any correspondence, even if it's with FINRA, who are claiming immunity. So before we make a start on Richard's update, shout out here to Curtis, who also shared details of updates with regard to Richard's case. So what Curtis said is, today our resident superhero Richard Hoffman filed an update to amend the complaint. Please check paragraphs 14A through to 14P. So we're going to do that in the video. So quick shout out also to Richard's video. So go ahead and check his channel. It's not a legal advice. KNOT, and he also has added there an update MMTLP litigation status as of the 8th of February 2022. So let's start by looking at section 14A, and what Richard has stated here is the plaintiff alleges, so plaintiff is Richard, that although the supposed suppressed and concealed by defendants in or about November 2022, FINRA and the SEC and the department heads therein believed to include both, obviously we're looking at Robert Cook of FINRA as well as Gary Gensler. There have been developments with him as well. They were specifically aware of and permitted the fraud to be utilised with the help of FINRA representatives around about October 2021 in establishing MMAT unlawfully, with obviously documents that were also without authorization. So FINRA permitted MMTLP to trade. They received illegal financial favors, future financial favors, and other illegal remuneration that was contrary to their mission. And both FINRA and the SEC and the law, obviously it was designed to be personal and aid illegal business activity that could not constitute regulatory action. So obviously, quite ironically, it actually led to anti-regulatory action. So if we continue with 14B here, the plaintiff alleges that around November 29th, FINRA although in its chief enforcement policies and intelligence officer were also prior senior enforcement officer at the SEC. So obviously there's a link there. We're looking at Mr. Sam Draddy, who we covered in the previous email. So he has been involved in the Freedom of Information Act correspondence. We've also got Robert Cook. We've got Gary Gensler of the SEC and other SEC whose names are unsurprisingly redacted. So I wonder what the authorities have in terms of hiding these names. So because of ongoing fraud and the establishment of MMTLP by FINRA, trading it was initiated, criminal fraud investigation as to how trading of MMTLP and belief GTS and Canaccord. Just check my phone before continuing. So just to continue where we left off, talking about the belief of looking at the market makers upon information and belief GTS and Canaccord, which we all know about, and then obviously with the assistance of both FINRA and the SEC, facilitated by broker dealers alike, Fidelity including, and without authorization. So we know that is the case. Not only let MMTLP improperly trade, but also permitted its partners and friends to short MMTLP and counterfeit, using counterfeit and illegal shares that were not closed out. We'll continue here with 14D. The plaintiff also alleges that although FINRA, Mr. Draddy, Robert Cook, etc., and also Gary Gensler were aware no later than November 2021 that retail investors would also purchase MMTLP stock. It was primarily used by illegal short trades facilitated by corrupt and illegal practices of regulators and facilitated by brokers such as Fidelity, as Richard is stating in his litigation. Both FINRA and the SEC obviously look at being the ultimate responsibility or holding the ultimate responsibility, and also alleged to have hidden information, especially from retail. So again, very strong allegation here further down. There have been multiple suicides, illnesses, divorces, and many other consequences. I would also add on people losing livelihoods, losing businesses, and losing their complete pensions, as well as their life savings. 14E, and it states at the bottom here, even looking at the 16th of March 2022, FINRA purported they also released a full fact FAQ. This was dated 16th of March 2022, but they surprisingly failed to mention any of the investigation outcomes, the parties, the claims, the legal cases, and also anytime referenced any subsequently produced dated 30th of March 2023. So lots of statements that were missing there from FINRA. And if we look at the next section here, which is 14F, the highlighted section of it, halfway down, is they permitted and welcomed short buyers to dilute retail by purchasing counterfeit shares, which they knew FINRA and the SEC and the other defendants, obviously including Fidelity and the other brokers, would never make them close and not recognize any gain, or more importantly from the IRS point of view, pay taxes. So 14G, again highlighted in bold here, we're looking at FINRA's market fraud market fraud investigation teams received several tips relating to the obviously the fraud of MMTLP prior to any spin-off completion. So they were well aware. The Freedom of Information Act response not only obviously includes any of the tips, but it also fails to look at what happened. So it does not include that. And defendant permitted all along retail traders to continue trading MMTLP, the shares, through shares, obviously we know up to the 8th of December 2022, and the defendants acknowledged the long traders, which is most of the retail, being unlawfully treated and would obviously lose their money. So FINRA must have known, the SEC must have known that, broker dealers must have known that, DTCC must have known that. The only people who didn't know that were us, the retail. So let's finish off by looking at the remaining sections, starting with 14J. The plaintiff, obviously Richard, also alleges the failure to disclose the falsity of the 6th of December and the 8th of December corporate action notice was also intended to protect the short sellers, so they would not have to recognize any tax gains, and they would also generate significantly larger amounts of profit. So we know that we have the Freedom of Information response, but the defendants have pulled the blue sheets. So the blue sheets are not available to retail. We do want those to be released. So obviously it's a bit like fighting in a boxing match with one hand tied behind your back. So continuing with here, obviously suspicious that the FOIA documents redacted all the executive names, and we're not sure why. Obviously it would be interesting for them to explain why some names have been redacted. So section 14L, Richard is also alleging that prior to the U3 halt, the defendants were aware that unless they intervened, the price of MMTLP stock would trade to an excess of 100x. So let's say if it was $6, it could have gone to $600. If it was $8, it could have gone to $800. $10, it could have gone to $1,000. So they knew that. We know that the closing price was closed all the way down to the $2.90. So in order to protect the financial assets of the short positions and to try and further conceal the extent of the fraud, and also to forestall huge losses, obviously we know what they did. So obviously this is something that has affected retail in a big way. And continuing with that, FINRA admits making numerous technical errors. So I think they're talking about IT issues, but they're also taking no responsibility, and obviously they are trying to throw the brokers in terms of under the fire, without suggesting that brokers like Fidelity have a way of privately manipulating short positions for the benefit of short holders and Fidelity. So they're trying to wash their hands of everything. FINRA has also admitted that as of now, NextBridge cannot trade again. So certainly under trading symbol MMTLP. I do believe they could trade again, certainly in another symbol, but not MMTLP. Continuing with the next section, so the same includes the blue sheets which have been concealed by the defendants since early December 2022. They also accessed those blue sheets according to the FOIA request, and it was admitted by the defendants that the blue sheets and therefore seemingly full TLP and MMAT share count showing millions of counterfeit shares, that's what they probably want to hide, no later than the 5th of December 2022, I think that should be, and certainly well prior to the 8th of December 2022, I think that should be. The final two sections here I'm going to look at is section 14N. Richard also alleges that since there is a gap in time referenced in the production of documents as per the FOIA request for nearly 1 year, it suggests evidence may also have been destroyed, which is certainly very, very concerning. And just to finish off, I'm going to look at 14.0 and the final part of Richard's update. And it states here, plaintiff alleges in the light of the obvious concealment by the defendants that the court immediately order immediate and full discovery. Now that would ensure a level playing field, that would ensure honesty, and that would give us the truth. And finally, 14p, all of the above confirms the only reason was for the U3 halt to be was unrelated to the false reasons given by the defendants. If they had not been tipped, no shorting of MMTL would have occurred on the 8th of December 2022, and the date the shorting of MMTLP is obviously still very, very highly suspect. So again, special thanks and credit to Richard Hoffman for doing this. I think Richard Hoffman, the main issue that the authorities may have with this case is that his update and his case is actually full of the truth, and as we know, the truth hurts. And finally, thank you very much for watching. Please stay tuned.